I'm Peter Contos. I'm with the Cannabis Equity Illinois Coalition, and I'm on Canna Biscuits TV.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy Jay Halim, and we are on Canna Biscuits TV. And yes, I'm still basically in Chicago virtually. So last interview we had a young brother talking to him about what they're doing with the Cannabis Coalition up in Chicago. Illinois is a hot state right now in the cannabis industry. And so it was a pleasure to have another young gentleman come and talk to me, Mr. Peter Contos. And we're going to talk about another situation that they're taking care of up there. I love the work you guys are doing, by the way, man. So thank you so much, Peter, for giving me a couple minutes of your time today.
For sure. I'm really pleased to be here.
Thank you, man. So, looking at you guys just started this coalition in 2019, but if you read about some of the things you're doing, you think it's been there for a long time. It seems like you guys are doing this work forever, So how did you come to learn about the coalition and join?
Yeah, so the coalition, this kind of form, it was incredibly organic. So in the really 2019, there was actually, let me go back to 2018. There's an election in November 2018 where Illinois elected a new governor who ran on legalization. He made it very clear that he was trying to legalize cannabis. And so, early 2019, the writing's on the wall, hey, this is going to happen. We had a number of town halls across the city and across the state talking about legalization. What does that mean for the community? What does that mean in terms of jobs, all these different things? And those town halls were all packed wall to wall with people. Question and answer would go well over an hour. People saying, how do we make sure that we get a piece of this? How do we make sure the community is not left behind? Because Illinois has a long history of, making bold promises and not following through. And so, there was one particular town hall that was co-hosted by State Representative Sonia Harper. Again, this was another one of those meetings that was, packed full of people. And she said, everyone's asking, how do we make sure we get in this? How do we make sure we have a voice? And she said, y'all need to organize, y'all need to show up, and you need to take action. And the people in that room, we took that very, very literally. And so, a few weeks later, there would be the first ever meeting of the coalition down at the Port Ministries and back of the yards on the south side. I was lucky enough to meet the lead organizer, Alex, the week after the first meeting. So her and I actually ended up in like a chance meeting where she would say, hey, we're, putting this coalition together, come through. And really every single, we've been meeting every week since then. And so, this coalition, it's remarkable that like we're about, we're over like 20-ish months old.
Yeah. But,
we're built really on like, this is the strength of the community that's been here forever. And this is really like, this is a community that's been like just so together and so tight knit that like this group has been, developed so organically and frankly, with the people that we have, within the coalition, it makes taking action very easy because we have so many people from so many different walks of life and so many different skill sets that we're able to be, pretty impactful.
Yeah, definitely. And, again, as I was talking to you, one of your colleagues recently was talking about how, they paint the picture of Chicago, and I referenced it to how they used to tell us about Africa. You look on the news, you think that Africa only has kids that's starving, war, things of that nature. Same in Chicago. You'll think that it's not the third largest city in the country, all the rich people that live there, because all they talk about is South Side, how many murders, things of that nature. And so, you guys live up that way and you see the disparity. What about it made you feel like you need to be a part of this portion of it?
I think, what really inspired me, I was inspired to do this work years ago. When I was in high school, I played football, American football, for 9 years of my life. And when I was in high school, I had suffered a series of concussions that really set me back a long way, dealing with chronic pain, dealing with, years of post-concussion syndrome for literally years after that. I went down the road of the pharmaceuticals and the opioids and just, doctors trying to prescribe their way out of issues, which put me in a worse position. And so, thankfully, I discovered cannabis when I was younger. but it was really an eye-opening experience to be in a hospital and to look at all of the 21st century medicine, but none of this could actually help me.
Yeah.
And then I find cannabis, and cannabis ends up being really a savior for me. But that's not everybody's story.
Yeah.
And so I recognize that I come from a tremendous place of privilege where I'm able to lift up cannabis, really as something that saved my life, and something that I hope will, can protect other people and keep other people safe. But I know that that's my reality, but not the reality I share with many others, especially folks who don't have the same color of skin.
Yeah.
And so I've been, really since that experience in high school, that just changed my whole life. And I've been on this path to how do we make sure folks are kept safe in all walks of life, not just, from head injuries, but like making sure that people have access to the, the medicinal and the wellness benefits of cannabis. Because frankly, we can't advocate for cannabis or medical cannabis unless we address this justice side of it.
Yeah.
Because there's too many people in prison right now, and with COVID, that means people are literally dying in prison over weed,
Yeah.
and that's simply unacceptable.
And so, do you feel like it's a lack of, outside of the systemic space, everybody knows about that part, but do you feel like it's a lack of education when it comes to the cannabis industry from with the minorities? Because a lot of times when you start hearing numbers, you don't even bother to go. Like I said, you hear that so many people getting killed at an alarming rate. Don't go to Chicago, which actually is a very, very fruitful place to go to. Or don't go to Africa because it looks like this. No, it looks way better than that. It's just a small part of it. And the same thing. So when they say it's going to cost you $5 million to get a license, do you feel like African Americans or black and brown individuals just go the other way and don't try to get educated, try to find out more about it? Do you feel that plays a huge part in it?
I think the education portion is a huge part of this, because I think there's I think because of what we talk about, all the systemic issues, that cannabis was used to weaponize and criminalize Black and brown folks for so long. And I do think that, education, that has a big impact on education. When you hear cannabis, if your family's been impacted, I don't want to hear anything more about it. I don't want to don't tell me it's going to keep me well. Don't tell me I can make money. Like, if I've been impacted, I don't want to hear anything. And I think there's a huge opportunity for coalitions like ours, that are community driven, to say, hey, there's opportunities across the board. Dispensaries growing, but like on the ancillary market, there is endless possibilities for what we can do with cannabis, from a wellness perspective, from a cooking perspective, from like helping people get better sleep. And so I think there's always an opportunity to improve with education, both on how does the cannabis plant work? How do we make sure people know this isn't gonna, get you drunk? It's not gonna, get you just out of your mind crazy. Like, this is a really, really a beautiful plant that has so many different capabilities. And so I think there's a lot of opportunities for education, both on the plant and on the business side, because, what we mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, this is a green rush, and the longer that folks go without, knowing about the opportunities, then, those opportunities are going to go by the wayside. And so education is a really, really important part of all this work, and making sure people know, hey, regardless of what your skill set is and where you come from, like, there's somewhere in this cannabis space for you. If you do yoga, if you do cooking, if you do, physical, if you do physical training, physical fitness kind of stuff, like, possibilities are endless, and, there's a huge opportunity here.
So, one thing I was thinking about when we were talking, you were just talking, I heard some of the things you're saying. I was thinking about the numbers. So what does the numbers actually look like far as jobs? Because I know there's a couple of huge companies in that area that's, Fortune 500 companies at this point. What is the ratio far as, the jobs from Anglo-Saxon to Black and brown?
Yeah, and so this is one of those like, we gotta, like, go back a little bit. So Illinois, before we legalized, we had 55 medical dispensaries. And so we had, 55 brick and mortar stores across the state. We had, I don't have the specific number, how many grows we had, but there's a number called like 10 or 15 cultivation sites across the state as well. And so that, like, to start, that's a lot of jobs. But because of the way the program was set up, where every single one of these licenses, from the dispensaries to the grow ops, all white owned. And so, that tended to really impact the way they would hire for these stores and for these grow ops. especially if you're there's a lot of communities, especially communities in Southern Illinois, smaller, more rural communities that are, predominantly white. And there's a couple cultivation centers there that are, staffed a lot, it sounds like a lot by white folks. But even in the city of Chicago, we still see a disparity. The city of Chicago is pretty much cut in thirds. It's pretty much 1/3 white, 1/3 black, 1/3 Latinx, with a 10% of other different racial and ethnic groups. But what we see in Chicago is, again, all of the dispensaries, all the medical ones owned by white folks, all of the recreational dispensaries, which are still owned by the medical operators, those are all owned by white folks. And so, there's there's some diversity at the dispensary level. Some of these stores, which is like, we want everybody to get jobs. We want people, especially right now where we need people literally to just sustain life, because this pandemic is ruining everything. And so there are some stores that have some diversity, but, we see that as kind of problematic, because there are a few dispensaries who have no black or brown representation in terms of ownership or management.
Yeah.
But the whole storefront is black or brown.
Yeah.
Or the whole marketing team is approaching this from a black or brown lens.
Yeah.
But the company doesn't actually embody any of this. And so there's definitely some problematic companies who utilize black or brown culture to sell their products, but not actually include black or brown people in the boardroom. And one thing I would say in terms of like the numbers, definitely a lot of jobs, in Chicago, we have, I think it's 11 dispensaries right now. That number is going to continue to go up because everybody wants to be in Chicago.
Yeah.
So, the licenses are, there's a bunch of lawsuits and everything. I'm sure we'll talk about that. But, when those do come on, there's going to be hundreds, if not thousands of jobs in Chicago, thousands of jobs statewide, no doubt. And so, whenever these do come out, there's going to be a lot more opportunity to get jobs. And because these new licenses will be owned by folks independent from the medical operators, that means we're going to get black and brown ownership. Hopefully, that means we're going to get owners of color, which will hopefully lead to, more folks of color getting jobs in the industry.
Yeah, one thing that's I know in LA, I'm in California, they were doing some things and helping out people that's been ex-offenders, be able to get the expungements, or to help them be able to get in the game. What are you guys doing with the expungements, or trying to help out? Is any laws been passed that can help individuals that had issues, especially with the flower, if anything else, to be able to get opportunity?
Yeah, so the coalition, a really big part of our advocacy and our programming is expungement, and making sure anybody who has a record gets that cleared as soon as possible. So we advocated last year for we wanted expungement to be as accessible as possible. What ended up getting passed in the legalization bill was, if you ever got caught with if you ever got caught with possession up to 500 grams, which is a little bit more than a pound, you can get that expunged. And then you can also get, if you have intent to distribute, so if you got caught for selling, as long as it's under 30 grams, you can get that expunged as well. And so we think those are a good start. We want to really, like I mentioned, we want to expand those as much as possible. We want everybody who had a record to get in this, to get the record cleared so they can get into this industry.
Yeah.
Because, there are things like, there are things like standalone offenses. So you can only get a record cleared if you have a standalone offense. So if you had a possession charge, but they also got you, they found a different substance, or they found a knife, or they found a gun, or whatever the case is, all of a sudden, because of that second charge, you can't get expunged. And so we see that as hugely problematic, because if you got caught with one thing, we know how the police and we know how prosecutors work. They're going to find something else to get you with.
Yeah.
And so, we see that as a huge barrier to expungement, and something that, we're developing some policy to first of all, get rid of those standalone offenses requirements. We want to go more than 500 grams. We know that these legal operators are selling hundreds, if not thousands of pounds of weed a day. Like, if you got caught with hundreds of thousands of pounds, get expunged. Like, these people are doing it legally, and somebody else is in prison right now. There's no excuse for it. And frankly, that's just like, it's disgraceful if that's the way we want to do business as Illinois. And so, we definitely have a lot of lofty goals in terms of the policy side. But then in terms of like supporting expungement and record clearing, we host quarterly expungement programming. So we host events like Get Your Rap Sheet. So, to get the first step in getting your record cleared is getting that rap sheet, from typically the city of Chicago. And so we help folks through that process. And then we connect them to our partners at groups like Legal Aid Chicago, who help people, who walk through the whole expungement process with people for free. And so we do a lot of really, really great work with Legal Aid Chicago, with Cabrini Green Legal Aid, to both educate people on how to get expunged, but then also to walk through the process itself.
Yeah.
We know that expungement can be daunting. There's a lot of paperwork, there's a lot of records, there's a lot of fingerprinting. And, we know that that's not comfortable. And so we want to be as supportive as we can with community members to know, to make sure folks know, hey, we're going to keep you protected this whole time. Don't worry about anything. We want to make sure this goes as well as possible, and that, folks get their record cleared as soon as possible.
I know we know it's tough, and this election here brought about a few things, and still some things going on. With the House, just that passing that for the House anyway, decriminalization. But you look at states like Oregon, and you start hearing decriminalization. You hear that discussion. What is that doing for your state? Are you guys pushing in that direction at this point?
So that's a really good question. I think, our coalition, we talked for a while after, on the meeting we had after Election Day, we talked a lot about Oregon, because that's where this conversation is going to be going nationally. Speaking personally, I'm 100% on board with decriminalizing simple possession of all substances. We know that incarceration and punitive punishment is not helpful, frankly, for most crime, most offenses, but especially for any kind of substances or drugs. We know that just throwing somebody in prison is never the answer. And so, speaking personally, I'm on board with that. We have a lot of coalition members who are supportive of an effort like that. I won't say the coalition as a whole is on board.
Yeah,
we'd have to have a longer conversation, but
understand.
that's certainly, these are conversations that are going to have to happen. And I think, we brought this up on the call after Election Day, but as a cannabis organization, we got to have this conversation.
Yeah.
If we're acting like other substances don't exist, or there's not other issues with other substances, then like we're being ignorant, and we're harming the cause more broadly. And so, we're definitely going to continue this conversation. There is a coalition of groups working on this project in Illinois right now. It sounds like there's going to, Illinois sounds like we got some years to go on this, but it sounds like progress is being made, looking to, instead of maybe decriminalizing at the start, it sounds like they're having to go from felonies to misdemeanors and then eventually to decrim. But that work is happening, and so shout out to everybody who's involved in that work, and definitely something we hope to get involved in the future.
Yeah, it seems like, it's been all this stuff been going on. Look at High Times for 25, 30 years, and it seems like, and then next thing you know, these last 5 years, things have been happening so fast. Like everything's been just going, like every day it could be something different. And so, you just never know. So how big is this race in Georgia that's coming up? How is that going to, how do you feel as though it's going to affect you guys up there?
Yeah, I mean, the Senate races in Georgia, like those are obviously hugely important, because those are really an opportunity for obviously new people to be elected and brought into Congress, or into the Senate, but it's also like a referendum really on people's values. Do people want to stick with the two senators who are like supposedly the two richest senators, I think, in the U.S. I know Loeffler is like worth like $500 million. And so I think it's hugely important both for a national conversation to say, hey, like who's going to have a majority in the Senate and all that stuff. But like on a referendum on ideas and like beliefs, like, do we want somebody who's worth $500 million to be calling the shots and making decisions? Because I'm not worth $500 million. I don't know if you're worth $500 million, but I know most Americans are not.
Yeah,
and so yeah, and so I really hope that the folks down in Georgia will take a stand and recognize this is an opportunity to really make voices heard, make it known that this old guard of like a bunch of rich white folks calling, making all the decisions and saying this is where we need to go as a country. That needs to end, and I do hope in early January that the folks in Georgia will make the right choices.
One of the reasons why I asked that question is because knowing that Joe Biden is not 100%, but Kamala Harris is, and with Georgia going the right way, she has the deciding vote. She has the tiebreaker, And so, you know, I wanted to know if people paying close attention to see if that happens, and it can probably actually steer some of those things your way a lot faster if it goes, you know, a certain way. It seems like it's going to be tight, but we just got to see. But I think that now with Donald Trump out and, you know, having a new administration, are you guys optimistic about the new administration and some of the things that's going to happen over the next 4 years with your efforts?
You hear me?
Yeah, you're back. I think you came out. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Sorry about that.
Okay, no big deal. I was saying, you know, with the new administration, are you guys optimistic with with a lot of the things that you're doing in initiatives? Are you optimistic of what can come out of this this next administration for the next 4 years?
Yeah, I think we're definitely optimistic. I think you know, where the president-elect hasn't, you know, completely got on board with legalization. We know Vice President-elect Harris. She's on board. She recognizes the mistakes she made in her career. She looks at the mistakes the United States has made and said, "Hey, I want to rectify this." So we're definitely definitely feeling good about, you know, the influence she's going to have on this whole thing. You know, we see things like the MORE Act passing. I know it got watered down in its final version, but, you know, to us, that's really a clear message that Congress was sending, say, hey, we want to take action on cannabis. You know, whether you're going to commit to it or not, we're going to show you that we can pass this. Yeah. Obviously, the Senate is its own conversation, but Congress said, hey, you know, this is a measuring stick for them, and them, you know, kind of flexing their muscle and say, hey, you know, Vice President or President-elect, we can do this. And so, you know, I'm optimistic. I hope that, you know, my whole thing is, as long as the right people are at the table and having conversations, you know, we're confident that, you know, the right decisions will be made. So I'm definitely optimistic that we're going to be a more forward-thinking, you know, country, at least on this issue, you know, hopefully for the next 4 years.
No, I'm with you on that. You know, last question, you know, we're talking about diversity and inclusion. Most of the time working with state governments and things like that, they have like a percentage. They'll say, well, this department has a 10%, 15%. What will be a win for you guys if you can, between now and the next 4 years with this administration, what would be a win as far as a percentage if you can get the diversity and the inclusion space? What would you consider a win numbers-wise?
I mean, I think in terms of like diversity and ownership, like that's the first thing to me is like we literally just need Black and brown people to own this industry. Yeah. And so, you know, to like, I don't have a specific percentage, but to me, like where we're at in Illinois, where you had 55 dispensaries, you know, who are owned by a handful of companies. If we're able to, you know, basically, if we can match that number with the same number of owners of color, specifically Black and brown owners, like, you know, where we can get to a point where we have 25, 30, 40, 50, you know, Black or brown owned cannabis companies in Illinois. And this isn't just dispensaries. This is dispensaries. This is grow ops. This is transportation. This is social consumption. This is home delivery. This is all the ancillary stuff. So I guess if I had to name a percentage, you know, I would want to see at least 50% ownership by non-white folks. You know, that number, I would love for it to be even higher. But I know the structural issues we face in Illinois are definitely, you know, this is not anything to you know, these are, you know, considerable challenges. And so it's nothing for, like, we can't act like it's going to be perfect tomorrow, but like, you know, we certainly are optimistic that if we can, you know, get the policies that we want in, you know, enacted and get the right people in the right places making decisions, then, you know, hopefully we can hit that at least 50% number. I would love to see it. And nationwide, there's a lot of states who don't even have cannabis. And those states, that's like the perfect opportunity for them to make sure, hey, if we're going to get, you know, if we're going to launch this program, how, you know, let's not do what Illinois did or Colorado did or California did and just prioritize these white-owned medical operators. Let's open the whole thing up. Yeah. And let's you know, let's really try something new. And so, you know, I'm optimistic that, you know, I hope folks are looking at Illinois and seeing, hey, there's some areas where Illinois could have done better, but there's some areas where Illinois did well. I just hope people don't blindly look at us and say they're the equitable justice champions, like, because there's a lot of issues in Illinois. Yeah. And so, you know, I'm definitely optimistic, and hopefully, you know, we can continue to support, you know, folks nationwide. We want to support as many people as we can, you know, with our experience in Illinois. So whether folks are in Indiana, Texas, Florida, it doesn't matter. We want to talk with everybody and have these conversations and prepare people for what's to come.
Yeah, we're optimistic as well. This is one of the reasons why we needed to have a voice. This is why Cannabis is here. I felt like we needed to have a voice, someone who, a media outlet that was willing to talk to individuals, not just write what they see somebody else is saying, just really get out here and talk to the people and educate. Because I do feel like education is what's, a lot of people just don't know. Especially coming out of the hood, you just know you smoke weed, And I didn't, I remember having an uncle years ago. He had arthritis early onset. And he said the only thing make him feel better is smoking weed. And I just thought my uncle wanted to get high all the time. And I didn't know 20 years later that was actually going to be a real thing. But that's how it's presented to us. And so as you get more education, I believe people will make more informed decisions. So that's one of the reasons why we're here. And I believe that you guys are in your own way doing the same thing, just educating and trying to protect individuals that can't protect themselves. So I want to thank you for that, and definitely appreciate you guys doing such a great job. And thank you again for the opportunity. Let everybody know how they can contact you, all your social medias, and also on the platform of the organization as well.
For sure. Yeah. Thank you again so much for your time today. We're excited to share this out. So we're on social media. It's at Canna Equity IL. We are on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. It's at Canna Equity IL. We are online at it's cannabisequityil.org. You can email us at cannabisequityil@gmail.com. You can email me at pcontos10@gmail.com. Those are most of our socials. I'm on social media at pcontos. I'm typically not on there that much, but no, definitely. Those are our platforms. Please do check us out. Spread some love. We got some really exciting programming announcements that we're gonna have, in these next few weeks, and we got our impact report coming on the way, talking about everything we did in 2020 and what's to come for 2021. So super excited to announce that and share it out to everybody.
Love it, love it, love it. Thank you again. And you guys, you know how to find us, www.cannabiscuits.com. All social media platforms, Canna_biscuits. And then me, Jay Halim. I am Jay Halim on all social media platforms. Again, you have been on Cannabis TV, Cannabis TV with me. And Pete, what is it? Peter Contos. I don't want to mess up your name. Thank you, brother. Have a good one. And stay warm. Stay warm.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. You too. All right, peace.
All right.